Okay, so because we started off the code like this and we didn't begin from the very beginning using objects and classes, there's going to be a lot of moving around in the code. But I really just wanted to do it like this so that we can, so that it's not too confusing to start off with classes. But definitely when you do your project, don't start like me ever. Start it with objects. Yani when you do the project, you have to start with a Pac-Man class or a player class. Don't do this. Start from the beginning. Let's brainstorm together. Class player. Okay, we're thinking here. What attributes هنا هيبقى عندي private as always and public. Okay, let's think. What attributes belong to my player? What are things يخصوا? They're completely things that are attributes of my player. The texture, صح? This thing, texture, right? I think we can agree on that. For texture, we'll name it T. What else? The position, مش كده? Int player I and player J. These things, right? Int player I and player J. And what else? The sprite, the SFML sprite object itself is also an attribute on my player. Remember when we called the move function, this is called on the sprite. That's the player. The player is really a sprite in SFML. For that, that's also part of the player. Sprite player. I believe that's it. Let me check the code that I had. Never mind, I don't have it open. But I think that's it. Now that, again, see how we're thinking about creating our class, and when you come to do the project, you'll think Pac-Man, what are the things the attributes of Pac-Man? Its position. Probably, but there's different things. Probably, I don't know. Probably like lives, stuff like that when you're doing logic. كل الحاجات دي, they're going to be related to your player. You think what things are attributes? Attributes means صفات. Yeah, that's literally what it means. What are the characteristics, my attributes of my thing that I'm trying to make, and these will be usually in my private. And then you ask yourself, what things do I want to change, and then you'll do setters and getters. And as always, we do our constructor. As always, we start with our constructor. And in our constructor, what do? We take every single one of these things and we ask, who can I give an initial value to? أولا, should my constructor take a parameter? يعني لما أجي خلاص create, remember this, but we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to create an object of type player. We're going to name it P. Am I going to give it a parameter? I'm going to say yes. I want to give it an initial position. So I'm going to give it an int x and an int y to fill in my player x with player I. I'm going to say I want to do that. You could have no parameters and then just have set position. Totally, you could definitely do that, but I like to, if I have an initial thing, then I want to initialize it with it. That زي ما عملنا تحت, we have to do up here. Int x, int y, the player I equals x, player j equals y. I know I should have learned from my mistakes and not use the x and y notation in case it's confusing, Yani, but like that's just the first random letter that came into my mind. Okay, you guys, I could give you an initial value, and I just did now. Can I give the texture an initial value? Yes, I can. T.load from file, and I'll give it my path, which, where did I do that? I did it here, and it's fine to, remember the texture has to be created in the main function. It's fine to create it in the player because the player gets created. Once I call player P, خلاص دي معايا until the program ends. But remember when I created it inside a function, inside this init function, when the function returns, and you'll learn this in your other classes, this is just like theory about C++, everything you initialized inside the function, لما the function returns and it ends, it gets destroyed and cleared from the memory. You'll learn this in your object-oriented classes of how like C++ works, but in classes it's fine, because it doesn't get destroyed until the very end of the program. The t.load from file, we did it here. I'll just take the entire thing because it's not going to be needed in the main function anymore. Okay. Oh no, I accidentally copied instead of pasted. Okay. T.load from file, the player PNG, that. Okay, for now we initialize texture, initialize this. And now the sprite, can I give you initial position? Remember we said, like we did with the emojis, to initialize the sprite we do 3 things. We set a texture, set a position, and set a scale. But remember when we did this inside this function, we're going to take all of this and do it in the player. Okay. Yeah, player.setTexture. دلوقتي I have it named as T now. Player Y dot set position. Yeah. Actually, let's think about that. احنا قلنا SFML معكوسة. Yeah. SFML معكوسة, so this is player J. It's reversed. SFML is reversed, and this is player I. Okay. And this init function بتاخد from it takes from the character array. So either way, like in order for us to get the very initial position in the text file, we're gonna need to use the init function anyway. For like my board, whatever reads the character array, that thing, like whoever fills the character array, wherever that happens, that's where I give my player its initial position. So this is fine, we're not gonna move this anywhere because the player class doesn't read the character array, it doesn't know anything about the character array. I'm gonna say that's it for the constructor. For the player constructor, am I missing a bracket? Yes, I am. Okay. I'm gonna say that's it for the player constructor, but let's make sure that okay, player I and player J int player like player عشان احنا okay, we want to initialize int x. This is awful syntax, like who does this? Okay, int x and then y. Give it x and y. But x and y, this function fills them. It doesn't make sense. Okay. For this function, these 2 integers that here are named player x and player y, it sees where in the text file we have e, and it sets the initial, like it sets these 2 numbers. صح? Where it sees e, خلاص it gives me 1 and 1, and since this is by reference هنا, it gets overwritten. So now, for now, أنا اديتها x, y فاضيين, and I gave it these empty x and y, and this function when it returns, it fills them in here. So now when I call my player constructor, x and y are no longer empty and they contain the initial values for my player. So that's fine. What else do I need? I need my player, like I constructed it, but what functions do I need in my player? I need a move function. This move function is no longer going to work. عشان player هنا, player isn't defined. Like you'll see, it's gonna not know what player is. Yeah, it's not gonna know what player is. I should remember we removed the sprite. Player is now an object, and by the way, we don't even need this anymore. In our function, it doesn't, because this initial function دلوقتي doesn't even need this, doesn't use it, so I'm removing it. This initial function now only deals with the maze. But now the error is going to be that it doesn't know what, of course it doesn't know what player I and player J are. It doesn't know anything about the player sprite. These are all things that have to do with the player sprite. For the move function now is going to have to be something completely different, and it's going to have to work on our object of type player. Okay? For now, everything is going to be in terms of p. For دلوقتي, what I want to have in this, I'm going to have to do something p.move. I'm going to create my own move function, a move player. Okay? Let's write that one. Let's write that function. For player هنا, we're going to have a move function. So let's do move player. And what should this function take? It's up to you how you design it, but what I'm going to do, I need to know what direction I want to move my player in. I want to move the player sprite. Well, again, I want to update my I and J positions, and I want to check the character array just like I did here. Okay? So what does my function need? It seems to me I need to know what direction I'm going to move in. So I'll just, for my own ease, I'll use a character to tell me. For character direction, ULRD, up, left, right, down, to tell me, and I'm going to need the array. عشان remember, I'm going to also have to check if I'm allowed to move. And to do that, I use my character array, right? I need it to be passed to me so I can access it. as part of the class because I can't see it عشان it's part of the main function وانا في الكلاس هنا. I could see it now because like this while loop is inside the main function, but now الscope بتاعي خلاص بقى في الplayer and it can't see it, but it has to be passed into it. So I'm gonna have to take my character array, car at, and then columns, and I'll write the definition for my function دلوقتي. I'll switch على direction بتاعي, direction, case, oops, U, and then I'll fill all of them now. I just want them, sorry, I want to match the order. I had it here. Left, right, down, up. Left, right, up, down. Left, right, up, down. Left, right, up, down. Left, right, up, down. Okay. Okay. Now على player. So now here, if I'm moving left, I'm gonna comment this out actually. I'm gonna comment all of this out. 1 second. Which 1 second? Okay, I'm gonna comment all of this out. This is a comment now. But when I move left, I want to say p.movePlayer L, and I'm gonna give it the character array. So in this function, we're basically going to be doing this. اللي احنا عملناه هنا. So if I'm moving left, like we did here, عشان move left, remember, like we did exactly in the last video. If I'm moving to the left, I have to make sure my eye position is my j. صح, yeah, my j minus 1 is not equal to h. عشان أعرف أتحرك, etc. etc. I already have that logic, so we're just gonna copy and paste it. So if r, which is here a parameter that's passed in at player I, and player j minus 1 not equal h, and player j, we call the move function على الsprite بتاعتنا هنا, just as we did, and we decrease. We decrement our j position. So we're gonna do the exact same thing here, right? Okay, up. Same thing here. And then down. Okay, and now over here, we're going to, oh my god, way too many spaces. Oops. Okay, and then p.movePlayer on the right, and then r, p.movePlayer u, and then array, and then p.movePlayer d, and then array. Let's see if that works. Okay, the draw function definitely is going to give us an error. Where's our other error? Void. Oh, I didn't give it a return type. Okay, to re-explain what's happening here, basically دلوقتي, because it's a requirement in the project to make things in terms of classes and objects, and also because it's better practice to have things as classes and objects, we have now chosen to change our code and make our player a class. So now that our player is a class, we can no longer call the SFML move function on it, عشان the SFML move function زي ما كان عندنا في الأول only works on sprites. But p is no longer a sprite, so I can't say p.move anymore. And the sprite is hidden inside player, and it's private, so I can't call the move function on player.player.sprite, and I don't want to. Because that's the point that we have classes, is because we want to encapsulate and hide our data so that we can't play with it in the main function. So to do that, I created my own move function that changes these private variables without the main function being able to touch them. And remember, that's the whole point of having classes and objects. And to do that, for inside this function, this is the one that calls the SFML move function on a sprite, on this sprite. So I created that function, and I called it here on my player object, not on the sprite, right? And now we only have one error, and it's that the SFML window.draw function can't draw something of type player عشان I'm the one that invented player. أنا اللي اخترعت player ده أصلا. It doesn't know how I'm supposed to do it. It can only draw things like sprites. What do? I could do many things. I could either create my own drawing function here. أعمل مثلا draw void draw, and I can just do window.draw, and then I'll have to give it the window. I have to give it my render window. ده هياخد حاجة render window and window, and I'll do window.draw of the sprite, the player sprite. That's my private variable here, player, and that's gonna work. Or why not, أو in order to be consistent عشان كل حاجة تبقى window.draw so that everything is window.draw, why don't I just do a getter, right? Let's just do a getter. It'll return the sprite, which SFML knows how to draw. A sprite get player sprite, and it'll just return the sprite. Isn't that nice? Return sprite player, and I'm سميها player. Sorry, forgive me. I named it player. I'm going crazy. Okay. For return player, it returns the sprite, and now I have a function that returns to me a sprite that I can draw. So here, all I will have to do is window.draw. Can't do player anymore. P.get player sprite. Remember, P is my player object. Let's see if that works. Okay, good. Everything is working as expected. Let's see if we can still not go up here. Okay, perfect. Let me change the text file back because that's bothering me. Okay. Okay, very good. That's it. I really, really hope that makes sense. Maybe in this last classes in the player thing was a bit confusing. So please, if anyone has any questions, office hours, Zoom me, email me, please. But I really hope it made sense. And yeah, the exercise, try to make the maze its own class. It should be much easier than making the player its own class. There's less attributes for the maze. You don't need to move a maze. It's literally going to be, you're gonna just move this, you're gonna make class maze, and this init function, you're just gonna make that, like, that's gonna be the constructor for the maze. That's it. Really hope that made sense.